And what I've got here is something that pulls together all the different technologies. Doesn't matter whether a household is using Apple Mac, or a household is using Windows, or whether you've got Linux, or whatever you may have. It works on iOS for iPhones and iPads, and it works on Android. So this is something that is a real-life use of bolting together applications and functional boxes. It's not necessarily about coding and programming Raspberry Pis. My network at home comprises a bit more than this, but this is the essential bit. I have a Samsung Smart TV. I have a router that connects to the internet, as you'd expect. I've got a Windows Home Server. My Windows Home Server has all kinds of backup facilities and bits and pieces for all the family's PCs, all automatically back up all of our documents and photos and heaven knows what onto that home server. I've also ripped my entire DVD collection onto that home server as well. XBMC, running on the Raspberry Pi, beautiful little application. I use the OpenELEC version if anybody's interested. Allows you to stream all of that media onto your smart TV. And the picture you see at the bottom there is the way that it looks when it's on your smart TV. Yeah? Now, I'll start this whole thing on XBMC and networking with one cautionary phrase. Copyright, stay within the law. Yeah? You're allowed to rip your own DVDs and have a secure copy for your own use in your own home, one copy as a backup copy. That's my understanding of the law. When it comes to photos and when it comes to family video clips of the children and all that kind of stuff, have as many copies as you like, anywhere you like. Just beware of all the copyright stuff here, yeah? So I run all of my movies now. If we want to sit and watch a movie, then we go onto XBMC, pick up the movie. Fantastic. And the picture quality, the sound quality, just superb. And XBMC, you can have it up and running in 15 to 20 minutes. It's that easy to do. Comes pre-assembled, put the image onto an SD card, plug it in, bolt the thing together, make a couple of tweak changes on your TV. It's super. I understand, I don't have the figures, I don't know where the source for this information was, but I understand that there are more incidences of XBMC on Raspberry Pi than there are on all the other platforms, which, considering Raspberry Pi has only been around with XBMC running on it for about 18 months, 2 years, is phenomenal growth. And it's a really simple application that everybody would really enjoy. And much like Andrew was strapping his Raspberry Pi on the back of his TV, you can get a Visa mount now. You understand what Visa is? The 4 screws in the back of your TV are a certain size, certain pitch, depending on your TV. And you can buy a Raspberry Pi case now that fits onto the Visa mounts on the back of your TV. So it's a really tidy little thing you can bolt on the TV, and the rest of the family don't go mad with loads of wires. Set it up wirelessly. XBMC supports wireless as well. And it easily slots into your network. The beautiful thing about it is that the remote control for your TV, using a protocol called CEC, which is built into Raspbian, built into XBMC, allows you to use your TV remote control to control XBMC. So again, not another remote to lose inside the household. I've got that running. I ripped everything that I've got into an MP4, M4V file type, using a piece of freeware called Handbrake, which runs on the Mac, and it runs in Linux, and it runs on Windows. It's a very straightforward tool to use, piece of freeware, or shareware, sorry, freeware. And that's how I'm running my XBMC in my house. We then started to say, well, Andrew, if you know all this stuff about networking, and you've been working on it all this time, Simon, who lives over in Oxford with Sarah, we said, wouldn't it be great if we could share these photos and things between our 2 XBMCs? Let's see if we can sync together our libraries. So we looked at a technology called BitTorrent Sync. Everybody understand what BitTorrent is? Peer-to-peer file transfer. And it's got a bit of a bad name, understandably, out there in the land of copyright, because some people download illegally ripped copies of DVDs and movies and Blu-ray discs that are out there. I don't use it for that, but the great thing about BitTorrent as a protocol is it's extremely stable for very slow transfers of very large files, which is exactly what it's set up to do. What we're creating here is a multi-site network, which is a bit like Dropbox. You've got the Dropbox folder on this PC, Dropbox folder on that PC, and up there in the cloud there's a safe copy of whatever you put in it. You put something in Dropbox here, it appears in Dropbox on the other PC, and you've got a safe copy up in the network. You know? This is like Dropbox without the safe copy up in the cloud. It's a site-to-site networking protocol, and as you add sites and give them the passwords, then the swarm of sites, the swarm of streaming points increases, and the speed at which you transfer the files goes. Yeah? It's perfectly suited to the, I've got to be careful here, to the lovely broadband speeds that we experience here in the UK. Very slow trickle of files across broadband, as opposed to very fast transfer of files across broadband. Where I live, I'm blessed with a broadband speed of about 4.5 megabits per second, an upload speed of about 300k, which is not too great. And Simon, who lives in Oxford, is blessed with the same kind of speed from the same provider. So we were looking for something that would just work in the background and carry on. BitTorrent Sync is perfect. It's free. It's not open source, but it's free off the internet. It runs on Apple Mac. It runs on PC. It runs on most flavors of Linux. It runs on Raspberry Pi. It runs on Synology. It runs on Drobo. It runs on Android and on iOS. So it's an application you can put on all these devices and link them all together. And what it creates is a secure network. You know, the traffic running across that network is encrypted. So it's a private BitTorrent network as opposed to a public peer-to-peer network. That means that your photos will never be intercepted because they're all completely encrypted as they go across the network. You know? The other great thing about it is that because it's encrypted and because BitTorrent, the people who produce BitTorrent have been very clever, is they don't flag it as BitTorrent traffic. So your ISP, Internet Service Provider, will not recognize it as BitTorrent traffic, or will not throttle your bandwidth and restrict the throughput, which I think is just the best thing ever, considering the amount of time that some of these network operators put into trying to throttle BitTorrent traffic. I think it's a lovely workaround. It just chooses a random port every time it sets up a connection, so it's not plotted by the ISP. The first thing we did was we set up a link between my little bit, which is at the top there, my network, out across the network, and across to Simon's place over in Oxford, where he's got a Synology server. Same as my Windows home server, just a different brand, runs Linux instead of Windows. And he's got all of his family photos and stuff on there, and video clips, and I've got all my family photos. And what we've been able to do using BitTorrent Sync, mine on a Raspberry Pi, his on Synology, is we've been able to sync the two together. Yeah, so every time he adds 3 or 4 photos, a couple of hours later, they appear in my library. Every time I add a video clip, it appears in his library a little while later. Yeah? Dead simple. Large files take a long while. A gig between our 2 houses takes about 12, 14 hours. So it's really slow trickle. So it's not instant file transfer, but if you're looking just to sync up 2 libraries, then it's a great stable way of doing it. It doesn't use up a lot of bandwidth on your broadband circuit. Yeah. Then we decided to take it a bit further. Oh, sorry, let me just show you that first. Sorry, this is the web GUI, interface that you get on the Raspberry Pi. Just open up your web browser, point it at the Raspberry Pi, port 8888, and it gives you which folders you're syncing with, which devices are connected right now, allows you to set things like what the secret password is for that particular stream on the network. All very, very easy to use, very simple to use. And the other thing that I did with mine, because I enjoy such great broadband speed, is I did my own throttling. Under the Preferences button, you can set a limit to the upload speed that you're going to use on your broadband, so you're not clogging up use of broadband for other things. Restrict it down to kind of 20k in my case, was the way that I run it, and that just sits there doing it nicely in the background without interfering with everybody else's browsing. We then got a bit clever and we said we were going to turn this into a bit more of a network. So we said, there's Andrew's AngieNet up there at the top, which is running Raspberry Pi with BitTorrent Sync, and I've got my Windows home server as my library, and I've got XBMC on my smart TV. Yeah, so that's all working nicely up there. Down the bottom, we've then got Simon's network, which is Synology BitTorrent Sync, and he's connecting that into a Raspberry Pi XBMC, and that's on his Samsung TV as well. So we've got, that is the first one that we set up. We've then got, what have we got? We've got son Sean, who's up there on the top right-hand side. He's got a Raspberry Pi which is running BitTorrent Sync, and all he's got is an external USB attached hard drive, something like 2.5 gig hard drive he's got. Put it on the back of his Raspberry Pi, and that is his library. And then that runs into XBMC on the back of his TV. Then we have Uncle Mike, who lives over in, brother-in-law Mike, who lives over in Saffron Walden, and he has got, he hasn't got a Raspberry Pi that he's using to run XBMC. He's got a Raspberry Pi to do the sync and the library bit for him, but his TV's got DLNA. Everybody know what DLNA is? It's the Universal Plug and Play UPnP protocol that devices are now using to stream from other parts on your network. You can get UPnP clients on your Android, on your iPhone, you can get them on your PC, and it kind of underpins the streaming of media in a home network environment. And most TVs have got a DLNA client built into most of the new ones. So you just click on what do I want to do. I want it from the BitTorrent Sync server library down there. Yeah, I want to watch that. It's just not quite as good as XBMC, but works in the same way. So we set up this 4-site network, and it all works, and it all just sits there and does it in the background. And Raspberry Pi is I guess the key component that we've used, and BitTorrent Sync to put this network together. It is slow. The syncing of it is painfully slow. If you put something on there and expect somebody to see it later that night, you need to set expectations that this is not going to happen very, very quickly. The way in which we got the thing up and running in the first place, and I'd certainly advise if anybody's going to be doing this, is you go ahead and you seed every site. So in other words, you take the library from AngieNet, in my case, and you put it on a hard drive and you physically go to that other site and you plug it in and you transfer the files, and then you connect up BitTorrent Sync. And what it will then do is it will compare the two and just do an indexing activity rather than actually download and upload all the differences between the two. If you have two copies of the library, set them up and sync them both at once, then all it will do is just the differences. It will just spend about 12 hours doing 12 hours last time we did one, just doing an indexing activity where it says what's the date and time stamp on every one of these files, essentially is what it's saying. Is it the same one? So you can sync up your photos, your family videos, all that good stuff. Like I say, limit the upstream rate on your broadband. Unless you got something like Infinity fiber optic or 30-40 meg broadband speed, then your upload speed will really suffer unless you throttle that bandwidth. There is a feature that I'd advise you to look at very carefully, and that is read-only sync or one-way sync on BitTorrent Sync. The reason being, if you've got a whole library full of family photos sitting on your PC at home, it's connected to BitTorrent Sync, and then the person on the other end has got a replica of it, and he deletes one, it deletes off of yours, because it's a sync program. Yeah? If you set it up for one-way sync, then you hold the master copy of your library, and it syncs to their library. If they delete one, tough, stays where it is on your library. Similarly, if they share their stuff with you, and you accidentally delete one, I don't want that one, I'm not interested in that holiday they went on, throw that lot away, what you don't want to do is lose their copy. Yeah, so I'd strongly suggest you set up one-way sync wherever it's appropriate to protect your own library. And I'll come back to the point I made right at the very beginning. Stay legal. Don't break the copyright rules. You can't go sending all this stuff around the world and breaking copyright rules. Yeah, it's your own personal photos, your own personal video clips, and incidentally any other document that you might want to share across the family. And so if you've got important family documents and you've got them scanned and you want to send them around, yeah, do that. We're going to start expanding this network a bit further now with friends and things if want to share some of their photos with us, and we'll share. All you do is you just create a new folder for whatever it is you want to share, set up a new password for whatever it is you want to share, and you tell them the password, and they can only get what's in that one folder on your PC or on your server. Short and sweet. It's about putting together component parts, functional component blocks, if you like, in order to deliver this solution. It's not about. There's quite a bit of command line stuff that I had to do for BitTorrent Sync to make it work the way I wanted it to work. But it's not difficult. It's about an hour's work to set up BitTorrent Sync for the first time, the way that I wanted it to work. But other than that, it's very straightforward. It's all about just install this, install that, set it up, and configure it through the GUIs. Good stuff. Any questions? We're running rather earlier than everybody expected us to, but any questions, queries?
If you've put the read-only in,
yeah,
and person X has put stuff on there, person Y has deleted it.
Yep.
Does it then resync it again?
No.
It remembers that.
It remembers that it's been deleted.
Right.
What you would need to do is stop the sync and then restart the sync if you want it to reload from the master library, if you like. Yeah, from party X to party Y. Party Y deletes it. You can stop the sync and start it again, and it will come back up.
How does XBMC cope with partially synced files?
It doesn't. It doesn't recognise the file if it's under change. In other words, it doesn't get a date and timestamp, I don't believe, until such times as the sync has completed.
Really? No data like stuff from the file system?
Not until that file has completed sync.
Okay.
I've not had the problem. You may be right. I've not had the problem.
Yeah,
I think you find that if a file is being transferred, the date and timestamp won't appear on that file until such times as the transfer is complete. So XBMC doesn't see it. We've never encountered any difficulties with it. And we set XBMC to rescan the library once every 4 hours. There's an automatic scan you can set on XBMC. So you don't have to manually go in and tell it to go looking for new material each time. XBMC has got an auto updater which we set to 4 hours.
Can you summarise the scope of this? How many people are on the network and where are they?
I've got myself on the network. I live just outside Cambridge in a small village south of Cambridge. I've got my son in Cambridge who's on the network and he's using Raspberry Pi. I've got Simon in Oxford who's using Synology, and I've currently got brother-in-law Mike down in Saffron Walden who's using Raspberry Pi. The plan is that we're going to probably try and get Mark from Toronto onto the network because my wife's going out there in 3 weeks' time and she can take a box of kit. So that fits in quite nicely. My son Matt in London probably won't do it. He's not particularly IT orientated. But yeah, as and when friends say, "Oh, yeah, share your photos with us," it's not a problem. You just give them a Raspberry Pi, plug it in, program it up. It's quite straightforward. There's no realistic limit to the number of sites you could add to this network. And because each individual folder is independently synced, you can have multiple different directions and different shares with different people. All you really do is you're expanding your home network out to theirs, but it's very, very slow. Any more questions? Okay.
Do you have any sort of external connectivity problems if you've got sort of routers with firewalls and...
No. BitTorrent Sync creates an outbound call through the router, so it's UPnP into the through the router.
If you don't have the UPnP and you've got people in the router...
I think it automatically selects a port and makes an outbound call anyway. I think all calls from the BitTorrent Sync application are considered to be outbound. And then there is somewhere in the BitTorrent network, there is a central server that's got a lookup table of where all the passwords are. And that's the way it does it. No traffic goes through that server. It just exchanges the IP addresses either end of the two networks that it's linking.
So you have a broker?
There is a broker in the middle, but that's only for the purpose of establishing the setup list. Because as you're probably aware, if you are on ADSL broadband at home, then your home IP address will change periodically. It doesn't stay the same. Yeah, so periodically it has to refresh itself. That's something that BT does in the network. Prevents you running certain services at home, that's the reason they do it. Allegedly. Knowing I'm live online, knowing I'm XBT. Any other questions? If anybody needs to contact me, then there's my email address, andrew.8.jones@gmail.com. My middle name is not 8.
Quick one. What codecs for audio does XMB support? And or is that constrained by any hardware?
No. audio is 44 kilobits per second.
So a bit like Apple stuff, or just FLAC?
It's HDMI. So the HDMI connection from XBMC to the TV contains the soundtrack digitally.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and it's depends upon the source material. HDMI supports 5.1, 7.1,
Right.
2.1, and 2.0.
That's if it's embedded in audio. If you have it uploaded with a video, then
Yeah.
if you have an audio only file, what can you use?
I think it's 44-bit 192 kilobits per second.
Okay.
I think. Not looked into it that much. But that's more about the Raspberry Pi and the source material again.
Hard drive space.
Yeah.
But if I'm surmising right, you should have enough hard drive space for the whole network on each computer.
Depends which folders you're syncing.
Yeah.
If I've got 4 folders at 50 gig each,
Yeah.
then that gives me 200 gig.
Yeah.
But if Uncle Mike only wants to synchronize 2 of them,
Yeah.
he only needs 100 gig of hard drive. Yeah. So it's not as if everybody has a copy of everything.
Yeah.
The other great thing about it is, of course, that by networking it together in this way, you've got an automatic backup of all of your own photos and all of your own videos. Because we said 3-4 years ago, when my wife's grandchildren were first born, what would we do if we lost the photos? And having a hard drive in the cupboard under the stairs and another one upstairs doesn't actually provide you with that much resilience. And you can stick it up in the cloud, or you can... And we started this whole thing off before we got to BitTorrent sync, quite honestly, using FTP. And FTP worked just the same, superb. But you couldn't do multi-site with it. It wasn't quite as elegant. And FTP's getting to be a bit of an old technology. But we set out with SSL, and it was very reliable, but not quite as flexible as this. So you get automatic backup of all the video clips of the family activities, and Christmas lunch, and all those holiday snaps are all automatically backed up to the other sites that you're sharing them with. So if you lose your server, lose a hard drive, then it's all backed up elsewhere. Any more? Then thanks very much for your attention. Thanks a lot.